Good morning. Welcome to the Tuesday Q&A without any Q's. I think we'll just have Q and C, questions and conversation
There you
today.
go.
So I'm John, and I'm one of the pastors here at WestWay Christian Church.
I'm Cody. How should I say this?
I don't know.
I'm one of the prospective pastors here at
Yep.
WestWay Christian Church.
Yep. Cody and his wife have been here for a few days, but they're not new to the Scottsbluff area, so this is nothing new for you. But Cody has been here over the last few days, just talking about the pastor of creative arts role that we have available here at WestWay. All of us WestWayers know that back in November, after 15 month battle with cancer, Pastor Shane passed away, and that kind of launched us into this new phase then of finding someone. I'm not going to say to replace him, because that's not what we're going for, but we certainly have a pastoral opening here at WestWay, and we've been going through the process of sharing the job description and interviews and conversations and all kinds of stuff, and that gets us to where we are today with Cody. So there's probably a lot of people that are watching this that know you, and there's probably a lot of people watching this who have no idea who you are. So is there any connection between yourself and Pastor Joe Petersen?
Oh yeah, well, Joe would be my dad.
Okay.
Like John said, I didn't really grow up in this church, but I think we started attending WestWay when I was in 7th grade.
Okay.
So I've definitely been around.
Mm-hmm.
But my most recent interaction, I guess, with WestWay would have been just visiting. I mean, I moved away in 2007, so it's been almost 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And WestWay's changed a lot in a lot of ways, but it's still always been home. So
Sure. So when you left in 2007, where did you go? What does that mean?
I graduated high school in 2006 from Scottsbluff, and then from there I left and went to Nebraska Christian College, and my class was the very first class from on the Papillion Omaha campus.
Okay.
So the school made the move from Norfolk, Nebraska to Papillion, Nebraska, and we got to be the class that kind of broke in everything.
Did you break everything also?
That was the joke. When I was in New Way Singers, actually, on the old campus, it was like the indestructible campus. So some of the things that we would do in the hallways and the dorms, like I think we did a slip and slide one year,
Okay.
like just covered the whole carpet with tarps, and they were very adamant on this new campus that some of the things that they allowed to slide on the old campus were not going to be the same way on the new campus, just because, I mean, everything was new, brand new building, brand new dorm rooms. So when we first checked in, they said, just so you know, these rooms are perfect. So when you fill out your damage report
Right.
at the end of the year, you're going to be paying for everything that you break. So they kind of warned us in advance.
Okay. So this just reminded me of a conversation that I've had with Pastor Mike a number of times. I don't remember what event it was that we went to at the Papillion campus of Nebraska Christian when I was in Cedar Rapids. It was either Gorf or a preview weekend. But were you there? Were you present the year of the big airsoft battle in the middle of the night?
I don't think I was there. We did have plenty of airsoft battles.
Okay.
And there was some damage that came from those.
But you didn't do that when there was a campus event?
No, not during a campus event.
Okay.
No,
Well, then any anger and bitterness that I might harbor towards you, I will not.
No,
I will not project onto you. Okay.
That wasn't me.
Okay, so you went to Nebraska Christian.
Yeah, I went to Nebraska Christian. When I first started there in 2007, I was in the worship arts program, and I did that for 3 years, and it was great in a lot of ways, but in a lot of ways, I like to call it, I just experienced a lot of burnout. Just in where I was at, that program was definitely a lot of work, and maturity-wise, I don't know that I was ready to handle all that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of got burned out, and I mean, how did you call it the other day? I experienced an academic hiatus.
Yep. I was on academic hiatus.
I basically that means that they bring you into their office and they say you're not allowed to come back because your grades were too bad. So that burnout affected me in a lot of ways, and I actually moved back to Scottsbluff that summer and worked at Applebee's for just a few weeks, and was at that point where I was questioning, all right, God, what do you want from me? Do you want me to continue to train for ministry? Do you want me to continue on this path down worship? Should I move home and just figure something out job-wise? And I wasn't to the point where I didn't want to serve in the church, but I was starting to question whether or not that was full-time paid ministry, whether that was for me or not. And then I got an email from a youth pastor in Norton, Kansas, and he said, hey, I heard you're not going back to school next semester. He was very nice in the way he put it. He said, just wanted to let you know that we have an opening for an intern, and it's in youth ministry. So I don't know what your thoughts on that are, but we'd love to have you. And so I prayed about that, and at that point, it was either go do that internship or stay home and figure out work. So I jumped on board with that, kind of not really knowing what to expect, and I was there for 15 months. So 2 full summers and the school year in between, and just God used that to help me to re-fall in love with ministry, re-fall in love with the church. And so after that short time, I had begun talking to Megan, who's my wife now, through a lot of that, and we conversed with each other and started to date long distance for 6 months, and then I moved back to Omaha to finish up school, switched my major to youth ministry after having that experience in Norton, where I fell in love with it again. And Megan and I got married shortly after that, and then we kind of started things out for the first 7 years of my full-time ministry, doing youth ministry at various churches. I was involved with a church plant in Plattsmouth, Nebraska for 2 years. And then I was on staff at a church in Kearney, Nebraska for 2 years. And then since then, we've been down in Lamar, Colorado for the past almost 6 years, and doing youth ministry and worship ministry and a few other different roles over that 6-year time.
So I don't know if the people who are watching this or are going to watch it later caught that. So you went to Nebraska Christian for creative arts or worship, whatever they called it.
Yeah, they called it worship arts. So.
And came out of there with a student ministry position, or a student ministry degree, or focus. So why? And then you've kind of talked a little bit like why. So why are we hiring a trained student minister? Why are we talking with a trained student minister about a worship arts or creative arts piece?
I mean, worship has always been a passion of mine, and I think that boiled down in a lot of ways to WestWay. Attending WestWay and the events through WestWay was different than any other type of worship experience that I've ever been a part of. I grew up in a very traditional church up until this point, and so it opened my eyes to the possibility of how I could use my gifts in a way that glorified and honored God. And so one of the things that helped me start into that and down that path was playing on praise team here. Started out playing bass, and through the youth ministry too, I was given the opportunity to lead on Sunday mornings for what we called at Big Church. Then they gave me the opportunity to play bass and lead at times with our students for our Wednesday night youth group. And then I had the opportunity to lead at middle school camp the summer after my senior year, right before I went to college. And so that passion has always been there. And whether I was employed as a youth minister, I've always been a part of the worship teams at every church that I've been on. And whether that was leading students in our youth worship stuff that we've been doing, helping to train them up and help teach them not only just the skills of guitar or bass guitar or any of those, but helping to kind of shape and form them like I had received here at WestWay.
Yeah.
So even though I was a youth minister, worship has always been a huge part of that. Whether it was as a volunteer or helping my students develop into that as well.
Sure.
And I know the further I go into this kind of, I mean, my ministry career, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's been more evident to me, especially over the last 6 years. One of the things that I've been blessed to be able to do where we're at in Lamar is experience a lot of different roles within ministry.
Sure.
And I feel like God has been leading me down that path again.
Yeah.
Into that creative arts type role. To help people have that same experience that I was able to have too.
So we didn't. So just so you know, we talked a little bit about this, but he didn't know I was going to ask him that. One of the questions when I came here at WestWay, and I think this is an important conversation maybe for people who aren't like in the pastoral ministry world to know is sometimes like I don't know that I want to say giftedness changes, but I think that's true. Sometimes just through our experiences and the way God's working in our lives, things kind of shift for us. So the question that I got when I came here to interview 4 years ago in January, this past January, was as someone whose experience was in student and family ministry. They didn't quite put it this way, but it was pretty much like, why are you qualified to be the lead pastor of a church? Like, why, with your experience and your knowledge base, like, why are you here talking to us about the lead pastor role? And I think I gave a very similar answer to what you did, is over a period of time, just like the way God works and the way God operates, I think uncover, discover just different things, different aspects of what God has done with us in the past. And like one of the things that I've thought a lot about is when I made that transition from student to family to more family stuff, and then when I made that transition to lead pastor, what I wanted people to be able to look at that from the outside and be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like I can someone else can kind of look into our life and look at these things that have happened and be like, oh yeah, like that makes sense. We can see how that's been developed. And I know over the last year we've all become experts at technology, at adapting, at going online and those kind of things. So how has for you, how has the last year or year and a half kind of shaped this transition that we're looking for a creative arts person.
Yeah.
So how has the last year and a half for you kind of prepped you for the kinds of things that we're looking at doing here?
Yeah.
And maybe it's been more than a year and a half, but
and it might have been. I know, like, since COVID hit, like any other churches, we had to kind of relearn how to do things. And one of the blessings that we had down in Lamar is, they were live streaming as a church before I even got on staff. So we kind of had that foundation, and that none of that was my responsibility when I first got there. It was something that I inherited over time. But that, I think the biggest thing was just adaptability and learning how to do things better.
Yeah.
And so we put a lot of investment into upgrading our equipment and figuring out the best ways to reach that online audience a little more. And we're by no means perfect at that. But especially when we were completely online, trying to figure out ways to still interact and try and give people, there's no way to replicate the in-person when you're not in person, but relationally, I think that was the hardest for us. And probably you guys have probably experienced that in a similar way too. Ways that we can try and still achieve that relational aspect and interaction with each other as the church when we're separated from each other. And so it was definitely a process for us, and I learned a lot, and I think that God has worked through that process for our church body, and helping us to maybe not necessarily like have to relearn or rethink things, but we learned what was really important to us, and me personally has kind of helped shape me into where we're at today. And I really enjoyed all of that, like the tech side of stuff and figuring out and solving those problems on what does this look like, and how are we gonna, here's the problem we have, how can we solve this problem, and how can we move forward together. And now that we're back in person and online, what things worked really well that we can continue on and do in the future, and what things did we learn didn't work so well that we need to just get rid of. But it was definitely a learning experience for me, and I think that God used all of those things to help me figure out a lot of the ways that he's gifted me. You mentioned maybe the giftedness had changed. I don't know that I would say that.
Yes, that's a tough.
What I definitely was able to do, and more so over the last year probably, was maybe God just helped me to realize the way that he had gifted me all along. And just kind of helped me see that like through introspection. And maybe the isolation was good for us in that way. But
I'm gonna stop you right there for a second. I mean, there's been a lot of, we talked about it. We talked about COVID last Sunday. And we've actually talked about it, I want to say, like, we certainly talked about it a lot initially, and then we kind of tapered off. And now, like, the last few weeks, we've kind of brought it up as it's still this reality for us. As I think about that time, I think for the people that were able and willing to look inward, to, how do I want to word this? To be introspective. What can I learn through this? I think the last year for people could have been a very powerful moment. And that was why, like, this past Sunday when I was speaking, I related it back to the time when I was in counseling, and my counselor asked me, like, what do you want to be like at the end of this? And I know I've had that phrase anyway rolling around in my mind since my counselor asked me that 7 years ago. At this point, 6.5 years ago. But I think as we go through hardships and realities, I think that's an important question for us to be able to ask, and not be. I think there's a way to ask that in a way that's self-absorbed, and there's a way to ask that in a way that I'm going to grow, and I'm going to be different. Yeah. So unpause. So you were.
I don't remember where I was at now.
You were talking about being introspective and like, what is God teaching me through this?
Yeah.
So,
and in a lot of ways, I think that COVID helped all of that, and I was able to. Through my experience the last, 8 years of ministry, I think that the one constant that's always remained has been the passion for the church, and I think really evident over the last year helped me to see that the church is bigger than just my congregation in Southeast Colorado.
Sure.
When we were completely online, it was so great to be able to watch WestWay online, and to watch my brother-in-law's church out in Minnesota online, and to be able to see how God is still using COVID in a way to help Christians reach new audiences and new people and figure things out and still be the church.
Right.
And that was really encouraging to me, and I think that passion was kind of reignited through that process too.
Yeah. I remember when we were at the spot a year ago. I remember scrolling through Facebook on Sunday morning, and all I saw was churches.
Yeah.
Just like, and man, what an amazing moment we all sort of had.
Yeah, Facebook crashed for us that very first Sunday when we were online.
Well, I was glad it didn't, because we weren't live. Because we'd recorded. But I just remember thinking, like, man, what an amazing moment where the church has been kind of kicked out of its place in a lot of ways.
Mm-hmm.
And yet be given this gift to be able to do things differently. And how can we, I think the way through that is introspection, not self-absorption, and not self-pity, but introspection. Like, okay, we've had this moment now, what are we gonna do with it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of brought really us to the spot where we are today.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about what our creative arts piece looks like, and certainly it is different. It's different than what it was 6 months ago, and it's different than what it was a year ago, without question. And I think for us, as we have kind of a little, to pull the curtain back for people from WestWay who are kind of watching, we had to take that into account as we're looking for someone else to come into that spot. Not that it was ever, this person's job is only Sunday morning. It was never like that. And I think the last year has really revealed for us, like, as much as it wasn't about that before, it is certainly not about that now. And just as we think about developing our teams and all of those kind of things, we had a lunch on Sunday with the creative arts team, because that team has gotten exponentially bigger over the last year. So, when you think about, what question do I want to ask? Like, based on the things that we've been talking about over the past couple days, like, what do you see your primary role being, or the primary role of the pastor of creative arts at WestWay Christian Church? Like, how would you, I'll give you 8 to 10 sentences.
8 to 10 sentences. Okay.
How would you define what you see we're looking for in this pastor of creative arts?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, if I could narrow it down to, really one word or phrase, would be that discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
The team that you guys have had, they've been running things for a year on their own right now without a pastor directly overseeing any of that. And one of the things that has happened is that these teams have started to self-sustain.
Yeah.
And WestWay's been blessed to have lots of very talented people,
mm-hmm.
Not only to lead worship instrumentally, but also people that have been able to figure out, the post-COVID tech world of live streaming, in weeks, in a few short weeks.
Yeah.
But I think the biggest thing that I can do as that pastor coming in is fulfill that role, pastoring the team, helping to disciple the team. In a lot of ways, they've got the skill set down.
Yeah.
Not 100%, but there's always ways that we can grow in that. But I think the biggest thing that I can come in and offer is that spiritual discipleship and pastoring element that I think that they may have been missing out on in the recent past.
Yeah.
And if I can come in and provide that, then they're gifted to be able to continue to do what they're doing and have that in place once again.
Yeah, and that's really been a key. That word pastor, that's really been a key focus for this. We're looking for a pastor first, and that's why whether it's myself or Mike, or I know Joe's going to say on Sunday, I'm Joe, I'm one of the pastors here. That's a key piece of this, and just in terms of the way that we operate. And while we all sort of have our specialties, and our focus areas. Ultimately, our job is to pastor our people, to equip them, and to help them become disciples of Jesus. And that might be you leading from the front on Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that might be you being in the booth on Sunday morning directing what's happening. That, like, both of those things are true. Me pastoring here and me leading here might be from the pulpit on Sunday, and then it might be on Tuesday night in my small group.
Mm-hmm.
So that pastor piece is really important for us. So married, Megan, how long have you guys been married?
Yeah, well, I'm really bad, like a lot of men, at remembering how long we've been together. So when people ask us that question, she looks at me like waiting for me to answer, and I look at her like, please save me from having to answer this question. We've been together, we will have been married for 10 years in August.
Okay.
And we've got 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
Riley, our daughter, is 7. She's in 1st grade. And then Aiden, I think he introduced himself. He said, my name's Aiden James Petersen, but you can call me AJ.
Okay.
He's 4, and he'll start preschool this fall.
Okay.
And then we've got 2 dogs, 2 Great Danes that were very much part of our family, and 5 chickens.
Okay. What does Megan like to do? We should, I wish we could have had her here. What does Megan like to do? She would not have probably wanted to do
Probably
this.
not. But
What does Megan like to do?
She loves to garden. That was one of the great things about quarantine for us, was it gave us time to be at home and to work on and experiment a little bit and try some new things. And one of the things that she really found out that she enjoyed doing a lot was gardening. So we built garden boxes, and she started everything from seed inside this year in a little greenhouse, and kind of babied that all through the process, and then moved it outside and really fell in love with just it was like a peaceful, calming experience for her in the middle of the chaos that was our world there for a while. And chickens was the other thing.
Okay.
So she treats those chickens like they're her babies, and they probably are. But she does a lot of things, and a lot of things great. But if you had to ask her what her hobbies were right now, then those would probably be the main 2 things.
And what do your kids like to do? What does Riley like to do?
Oh, Riley she loves school, and she must have got that from her mom. She loves to read. We went to her parent-teacher conferences a couple weeks ago, and we asked if there was anything we need to be worried about, and they said Riley's a great student, she's perfect. The only time we ever have to get after her is any downtime she has at school. She picks up a book. And so they said sometimes we have to make her put the book down to do some other things and interact. But she loves to read. She loves to play. She's very much a girly girl. Unicorns and princesses and all of those things. And AJ is about the exact opposite.
Okay.
He's all boy. He loves to wrestle, loves to be outside and get dirty. If there's a snow pile or a puddle, he's jumping in it. He loves to play Legos. That's probably the big thing right now. Both of our kids love Legos.
Nice.
And they got that from me. You can ask my parents, that was always something growing up. But they love Legos, and AJ loves Star Wars. So if you can entertain a conversation about Star Wars with him, he'll tell you the same thing over and over and over.
Awesome. Cool. Well, that's what we got for today. We want to just give you the opportunity, our church body, the opportunity to hear a little bit about Cody and his family and the pastor of creative arts position that we have here. It's been I would say it's been a really good few days. I like talking to people. Like, you're one of the, I know Shane, your brother Shane, was here for his internship.
Yeah.
So I got to know him pretty well. Bethany and her husband are here, so I know Bethany. Know Austin pretty well. Didn't know you very well. Don't know Jeff very well. Or Miranda. Thank you. Don't know Miranda very well. We just want to encourage you guys to be praying for WestWay. Be praying for the Petersen family. Be praying with us as we just kind of navigate what this looks like for us, and just know that we're praying for you during this time as well. We know that the last year has been difficult and challenging in lots of different ways, and I think through this process, this is just like it would for any process of hiring or when someone's passed away. Like, this is probably gonna bring up some things that maybe we thought we were done wrestling with, and like the good news is that God's with us in the midst of all of those things. Yeah. So we just covet your prayers. They covet your prayers. And you can covet our prayers and know that we're praying with you. So we love you guys. We're praying with you. We're praying for you. Looking forward to seeing you on Sunday at our normal 10:15 time as we gather together. We're gonna jump into the New Testament this week. We've spent the last, I want to say, 8 weeks now going through and talking about all of the books of the Old Testament, transitioning to the New Testament. Easter's the week after that. We're going to be talking quite a bit about that on Sunday. So we look forward to continuing our discipleship with each and every one of you. So have a super great day. Please, when this video gets posted, which it'll be here in a couple minutes, we would love for you to share this so people in our church body who maybe don't always get on to see this will be able to see it and experience a little bit about what's happening in Cody's life and what we have going on here at WestWay. So just want to encourage you to do that. So love you guys, praying with you, praying for you. Thanks for talking. Thanks for coming on here. And we'll see you guys soon. Have a great rest of your day.